You're watching San Diego's breaking news leader. This is CBS News 8 at 11.
It really sends the message that Trump cares more about the profits of fossil fuel companies than he does about our children's future.
Tonight, the backlash is not letting up as San Diegans protest what they say is President Trump's disastrous decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Barbara Lee Edwards.
I'm Carlos Chiquetto. President Trump tweeted tonight that his job is to do everything possible to give America a level playing field. He said today he's open to renegotiation, but several European countries say that's not possible.
Mr. Trump's decision to withdraw comes despite opposition from his own camp, including his Secretary of State and daughter, Ivanka. CBS News 8's Richard Allen is live at the Embarcadero tonight with reaction from San Diegans. Richard?
And Carlo and Barbara Lee, dozens of San Diegans converged outside the federal courthouse downtown this evening to rail against President Trump's decision. It was a decision that was not altogether unexpected, but one that was met with outrage, embarrassment, and a promise to fight back.
Fossil fuels have got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh.
President Trump's decision Thursday to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement fueled fierce opposition worldwide, including here in San Diego.
I mean, we consider this decision an immoral decision.
Setting us back, threatening our air, our water, our children's future.
This is the whole enchilada. There is no planet B, and he just put it at risk for everyone.
The president argued this global pact to fight climate change would put the U.S. at an unfair disadvantage.
The Paris Accord would undermine our economy, hamstring our workers, weaken our sovereignty.
It's, just quantifiably not true what he's saying.
But these protesters counter the real loser in this move will be the United States.
And we've lost a lot more respect from the international community.
He's isolating us and he's alienating us from our allies, and he is embracing our enemies.
Also arguing that the U.S., as historically the world's largest producer of carbon pollution, has a moral imperative to remain part of this climate pact.
The U.S. absolutely has an obligation to do what it can to fix the problem that we created, essentially, when other countries who did very little to cause the problem are the ones who are really suffering.
Down with the clown. Keep it in the ground.
And while this fight against Trump's move continues on a federal level, these protesters say they'll also focus on fighting for a cleaner environment at the local level.
I'm not going to run. I'm going to stay here and fight for the America I know we could be.
And under the terms of the Paris Agreement, the U.S. cannot exit this pact until November 4th, 2020, one day after the next presidential election, meaning this battle over the future of climate policy could play a major role in that election. Carlo?
Thanks, Richard. Strong words from California Governor Jerry Brown, who had this to say about the big decision.
This group is completely committed to meeting the Paris Agreement. We are committed and even going further.
Speaking at a breakfast in Sacramento, the governor criticized Trump's decision to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement. He also vowed to make California a leader in the fight against climate change. Tomorrow, Governor Brown will fly to China to strengthen support of state climate policies, with more than 100 international allies.
Downtown tonight, dozens of people in San Diego voiced their opinion of President Trump's decision. This group gathered on Broadway Avenue to protest President Trump pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. Group organizers say this will have devastating effects on our nation and the world's ability to fight climate change.
We're going to begin with San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, who tweeted this out tonight. San Diego remains 100% committed to leading on environmental protection. Cities will lead the way, #Paris Agreement. From Democratic Representative Congressman Scott Peters tonight, exiting the Paris Agreement is morally wrong and monumentally stupid. From Senator Kamala Harris, as this administration retreats, I will continue to work to support California's efforts to lead the fight against global climate change. From Rand Paul, Kentucky Senator Republican, this action by @Real Donald Trump is great news for the economy and could save as many as 6 million U.S. jobs. And finally, from Nancy Pelosi, she, of course, the Democratic leader here, she She says President Trump's decision defies all common sense. Withdrawing from the Paris Agreement is reckless. Kathleen?
And Phil, happening now in New York City, One World Trade Center is lit up in green in support of the Paris Accord. These are live pictures. The tower is lit up in protest of President Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the deal. And you can see the green spire glowing there in the night sky. And it didn't take long for some protesters here at home and across the world to hit the streets sounding off on Trump's decision today. Downtown, dozens of protesters gathered at the federal building. Many of them were with the group San Diego 350. Some of the protesters say they weren't surprised by the president's decision, but were deeply disappointed.
Well, I think we're outraged. I mean, this is a terrible mistake, and it's a deeply immoral act. You know, it threatens our air and our water and our children's future. And we stand with many San Diegans and people across the country really opposed to this decision.
Today's protests stretch from cities such as Washington, D.C. to New York and even in the heartland in Kansas City.
And here in downtown San Diego this evening, demonstrators shared their disappointment with the president's decision. A group of about 100 protesters held signs, chanted as drivers went by, some honking their horns in support.
So him pulling out of the Paris Agreement today says that the U.S. is not going to do its part in solving this problem that affects everybody in the world.
Well, it seems like the U.S. always seems to pay more than their fair share a lot of times. So you got to do what's fair and what's right.
By the way, there are only two other nations that are not part of the Paris Agreement, Syria and Nicaragua.
And the city of San Diego already has a local climate action plan. Governor Jerry Brown said that California as well will move forward as a state without support from the federal government. Still, demonstrators shared their disappointment with the president's decision. This was downtown San Diego last night. There are only two other nations in the world not part of the agreement like the U.S. now, and those countries are Syria and Nicaragua.
Por lo pronto, las reacciones ante el anuncio del presidente Trump de retirar al país del Acuerdo Climático de París llegaron hasta nuestra región.
Liar, denier, our house is on fire. Liar.
Más de medio centenar de personas protestaron esta tarde en el centro de la ciudad, pues temen un retroceso que podría costarle mucho al planeta si no se actúa desde ya.
Se ha llegado a un punto en que no se puede hacer más tarde, tiene que ser hoy. Mañana podría ser demasiado tarde. Entonces...
Bueno, el mensaje fue directo y claro para el presidente Trump, que reconsidere, dicen, las acciones de su administración en torno al calentamiento global. Las manifestaciones, consideran, seguirán aquí en la ciudad hasta que retrocesen o tomen una decisión distinta.